Everyone knows Socrates as the man who claimed he knew nothing. But here's what most textbooks leave out. Some of what he did claim to know, he said he learned from a woman. Not a footnote, not a muse, a teacher. Her name was Diotima, and she's just one of several women written out of a story that was never really theirs to erase in the first place.
Diotima of Mantinea, the woman who taught Socrates about love. In Plato's Symposium, a group of Athenian men are drinking wine and taking turns giving speeches in praise of love. When it's Socrates' turn, he does something strange. He says he's not going to give his own theory of love. He's going to recite what he was taught by a priestess named Diotima of Mantinea. According to Socrates, it was Diotima who walked him through the idea that love isn't about possessing beauty. It's a ladder. You start by loving one beautiful body, then beautiful bodies in general.
Aspasia of Miletus, the teacher behind the throne. If Diotima is philosophy's ghost, Aspasia is its scandal. Aspasia moved from Miletus to Athens sometime in the 5th century BCE and became the partner of Pericles, the most powerful statesman in the city. But ancient sources, including Plato, describe her as something more than a political consort. She ran a salon frequented by the era's leading thinkers, and she was reputed to be a teacher of rhetoric. In Plato's dialogue Menexenus, Socrates claims, with a wink the text never fully resolves, that Aspasia composed the famous funeral oration usually credited to Pericles, and that she personally trained him, Socrates, in the art of speech. Was this satire? Plato's dialogues love irony, and Menexenus is soaked in it. But even as satire, the joke only works because Athenians already associated Aspasia with real intellectual influence. You don't credit a woman with ghostwriting the most famous speech in Athenian history unless people already believed she was capable of it. Ancient comic playwrights mocked her as a corrupting foreign influence. Modern historians read that mockery for what it usually is: evidence that a woman was operating in a space men thought belonged only to them. Axiothea and Laërtius, the students who had to disappear to learn to learn. A generation after Socrates, his student Plato opened the academy, and unusually for the time, he admitted women. 2 of them are recorded by name: Axiothea of Phlius and Laërtius of Mantinea. Ancient sources claim Axiothea was so determined to study philosophy that she dressed as a man to attend Plato's lectures and kept the disguise even after other students realized who she was. We don't know what Axiothea or Laërtius wrote, argued, or contributed because none of it survived. What survived is the anecdote about a costume, which tells you something uncomfortable about which details ancient historians thought were worth preserving and which weren't. Hipparchia of Maronea, the philosopher who lived her argument. A little later, in the Cynic tradition that grew partly out of Socratic thought, we meet Hipparchia of Maronea, the only woman whose philosophical writing is directly referenced, even though the works themselves are lost. Hipparchia abandoned a life of wealth to marry the Cynic philosopher Socrates and live by Cynic principles, rejecting social convention, owning almost nothing, arguing in public exactly as her male counterparts did. According to the biographer Diogenes Laërtius, she debated a prominent thinker at a banquet and won, a scene ancient writers found remarkable enough to record twice. For Hipparchia, philosophy wasn't a theory about the good life.
It was a practice she performed publicly, in a toga she chose, in a marketplace she wasn't supposed to occupy. None of these women get a statue. Most don't get a single surviving sentence in their own words. What we have instead is an outline, sketched by the men who wrote about them, sometimes to honor them, sometimes to mock them, sometimes almost by accident. But the outline is enough to tell us this. The idea that ancient philosophy was a closed conversation among men isn't quite true. It's a conversation where the women's contributions were recorded third-hand, filtered through male narrators, and then slowly, over centuries, left out of the summary. Diotima may or may not have existed. Aspasia's rhetoric may or may not have shaped a nation's most famous speech. Axiothea wore a disguise to sit in a room. Hipparchia won an argument at a dinner party and made history do a double take. Forgotten isn't the same as absent. It just means someone decided not to remember.